Alright guys, today we got to work on the daily. This thing's been leaking oil from the rear main seal, and then it wasn't too bad, but then I went and did a track day, I don't know, it was a couple weeks ago now, and there's no catch can on this car. So it got much worse. So I know I haven't showed the setup on this thing. It is a STS, a rear mount twin turbo kit. You can see the turbos right there. They're really tiny and really dirty, but they are very small. I mean, give you an idea of how small they are. There's my hand. My hand is bigger than the turbos. They're like that because they're back here, so they don't have the heat from the motor, so it makes the turbos way less efficient. It's really not a great setup, but yeah, it does work, so it's all right. It's not you're not going to make huge power with these kits, but you can make decent power, you know, enough anyway. This thing makes a little less than 500 right now, and you can see there's just, I mean, there's even oil back here in the back of the tranny, and that's from up front. That's not from the tranny. That's coming all the way across the whole bottom of the car. It's covered in oil. Anyway, you see, if you don't know anything about Corvettes, the transmission's in the back of the car. The differential bolts right to the transmission. There's no, you know, what you would call a drive shaft between the transmission and the differential. It's a transaxle. And then there's up there, you see that it's called a torque tube, and that goes all the way up to the motor and where the clutch is. And you see it's all, everything's saturated here with oil and dripping. So basically, all right, cradle's out. Thing is filthy, so make sure we clean that up before it goes back. Let's see where we're at here. Everything is hanging. Better look at the transaxle here. Wastegate's right behind the diff, so that's gonna have to come off. I did notice when I was down here too, I'm missing a bolt, and both of these exhaust flanges are leaking pretty bad, and whoever welded this did a phenomenal job. Look at those boogers, those are nice. So anyway, I'm gonna start, I guess I'm gonna pull this exhaust down, and then we'll start working on getting the trans and torque tube out. Alright, figure I'll show you real quick. The exhaust is down. Exhaust out of the way. Get under here. It's a lot nicer working in the garage than it is out in the sun, that's for sure. Alright. Once it's unbolted, there's the X pipe, mid pipe, and then you got this flat floor here. All these little 8mm. Take those off, and then you can unbolt the torque tube. And then I'm gonna try to drop it all together with the torque tube. So I'm gonna pull them, trans and the torque tube. Once I get these bolts out, I'm going to unbolt I think there's 4 bolts that hold the torque tube on. So unbolt it, slide it back a little bit, then unbolt the slave cylinder. And then once that's unbolted, then I should be able to pull the whole thing off as one big assembly, and it'll save me a little bit of work anyway. So anyway, show you where I was at and pull the rest of it out. Alright, so I pulled that flat floor off. I ended up having to pull the front downpipes off too. They were definitely going to be in the way once I start getting to taking the bell housing off and whatnot. So anyway, now you can see it's off, and there's the torque tube all the way back. So gotta get these bolts off here, there. It looks like there's 6 of them. So get those off, and then I'll unbolt the slave cylinder and then get the bell housing off. So I'm gonna get going on that. Looks like I'm gonna drop the drop the trans a little bit, and then I should be able to get a little more angle, and hope I can get up there and get those bolts. But we'll see in a minute. Alright, it's dark now, but got it out, cleaned it up real fast, pressure cleaned it off. It was just caked in crap, so it's out. Better look at the transaxle and torque tube together. So looks like that bushing's got a little bit of play in it. I might look into grabbing some new bushings before. Alright, it's the next day. I'm gonna get a little bit of work done. I don't have a lot of time, but try to at least get the clutch and flywheel out, replace the seal, put the clutch and flywheel back on, and then we'll see how much time I have after that. So, there's everything all cleaned up after yesterday. You know, control arms and stuff still look filthy, but they're not at least caked in crap anymore, so that's good. And that's it. Trans and diff all in one, torque tube. But it's a mess down here. I did not clean up anything. There's just bolts and crap everywhere. So anyway, I'm gonna get started. I'll show you what the seal looks like once I get the bell housing and clutch and flywheel off. We'll see what actually failed. So I'll show you in a minute. All right, clutch is off. It is a McLeod twin disc, and there's no real obvious thing wrong with the seal. It is leaking right there at the bottom. You can see it dripping out of that little spot there, and it's all inside the bell housing. But looks like the cover itself may be fine. Doesn't look like it's leaking, but the seal definitely is. But I don't see it's like flipped or anything like that. At least not on the dust side here. Maybe on the inside, I don't know. But anyway, we're gonna get it out and we'll get it all cleaned up in here and start putting it back together. Alright, so I just popped it out. It came out with little to no effort. I mean, it practically fell out. And it looks like this may be the original. It's pretty hard. It's not very pliable anymore. So I think it's just a aged seal. Someone must have not did it when they did the clutch. I'm not sure. Not sure what. No, this is an aftermarket one because it's national. Seal is national right there. Hard to see. So they must have did it when they did the clutch, but it's already like this outside wiper here. It's real soft, and so is the dust cover here. But this inside one is one that actually keeps the oil out, is pretty stiff. So we'll compare it to a new one and we'll get it in there. There you go too. See how oily this bell housing is. Just caked in there. There's flinging oil everywhere. Alright. So clutch is back in. McLeod twin disc. And I'm gonna slap this bell housing back in here, and then we're just gonna start sliding this thing together. Let the fun begin. Alright. It's back together. I ended up wrapping all the exhaust too. I had some header wrap laying around, so I just decided to wrap it all. Should help keep the heat to the turbo since they're all the way in the back. I wrapped the whole thing down by its mid pipes and this back section, which would be like the axle back. So it's all back together. About to slide the shifter in real quick. So I had to take it out and fire it up, make sure it doesn't leak. Grab the keys. Alright, it's all back together. Start it up. Make sure it's not leaking. Everything funky. Definitely going to smoke quite a bit once that header wrap gets nice and warm. All that's going to smoke, so this flange right here is leaking. Where the donut gasket's open a little bit. So it looks like the only exhaust leak I have right now is this one. So I'm gonna see if I can tighten that up and all. something like that revving. I can't hear any exhaust leaks, but I'll really be able to tell when I drive it. So we'll see. I'm gonna throw the wheels back on, and then I may even take it for a quick drive. It's all wet out, but that's okay. At least go through the gears, make sure everything's good still. Ended up having to lower the rear subframe and tranny back down a little bit because I had pinched some of the oil lines for the turbo. They run across the top of the torque tube, and they were up by the shifter, and it wasn't letting the shifter move very well, so I had to drop it back down and move those to the other side. That was a little bit of a pain, but looks like it's good now. So we'll get the wheels back on this thing, clean up my tool,